Welcome to the Library Director First Year Survival Skills Panel. I'm Christina Taylor, Library Management Consultant at the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, and the panel moderator. I'm thrilled to be guiding this group of new directors from across the state through this discussion. So let's begin with each of you briefly introducing yourself and describing your libraries and the communities you serve. We'll start with you, Justin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Dyer. I'm the director of the Hillsborough City Library in Hillsborough, Texas. Hillsborough is a rural library. We serve about 9,000 residents. And I've been in my position now for about a year and a half.
Hi, everybody. My name's Matthew Glosser. I'm the director of the Hewitt Public Library. We're a small suburban library right outside of the city of Waco. I have been in this position for just a little over 2 years.
Hi, my name is Kenya Johnson, and I'm the director of the Pasadena Public Library. It's located, it's a suburban suburb outside of Houston, the southeast side of town, and our population is just under 150,000.
My name is Tori Strickland. I'm the library director at the Howe Community Library in Howe, Texas. We're about 30 minutes north of McKinney. The population here is about 9,500, and it's growing quickly.
Thank you. Justin, if you will start us off by describing the steps you took to learn about your community.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little different. I started at my library a little over 8 years ago. I've only been the director, like I said, for about a year and a half. But in that time, I've really taken steps to be involved with the community. I think that's very important. I joined the Lions Club. I've been on different various boards and commissions. Now as director, I make sure I go to every single city council meeting that I can possibly get to. And when I'm there, I always, before the meeting starts, I go and I shake all the council members' hands and tell them a little bit about what the library has been doing that week, and things that we have coming up. Just kind of be a pest, but in a positive way. And on a little bit smaller scale, I do try to spend some time at the front desk, or I'll pop into story time and talk to the families there, or I make appearances at our other, different events and activities that we have going on. Just chit chatting with people and seeing, how their experience is in the library, or if there's something we're not offering that, they might be interested in using, or just listening to what, people are interested in and what they need and how the library could work to meet those needs.
Thank you. Tori, speaking of how the library can work to meet those needs, many directors balance multiple roles and responsibilities. Tell us about your roles and the skills you bring to them.
My role, when I think about librarians and all the roles that we cover, I mean, there's so many things that we do every single day. And here in my library, mine is very different because I am also a middle school librarian and a district librarian. And so I work for the ISD. I'm one of those special libraries that we talk about. There's like 24 of us, so it's a little bit different. I'm also in a library where I am the only librarian, and then we have 2 half-time staff. So when I think of library, everything library is me. One of the most important things, though, I think, is that I am the information specialist. I'm the curator. Everything that's here, I have done, I create, I do. So all of the parts and pieces that fit together, everything is me. I mean, whether I am training my staff on how to do something, creating a flyer, doing our social media post, working with our board, the city council, everything it's the library, it's me. So I think a really big part of what we have to do as librarians is to be collaborators because of everyone that we are working with, but also being a teacher and learning ourselves. There's something new every single day for us, and down to being the janitor. I take out my trash every single Friday because we don't have janitorial service on Friday. So it's me, and it's just being able to provide all of these different things that we do. And it's ever changing because there's nothing that's the same every day here. And so we really have to be able to balance and juggle all the things that we do.
Thank you, Tori. So, speaking of multiple roles and doing all the things, which many times libraries are in, whether you're solo-ish or not, um, when you do have help, can you tell us about what advice would you give to new directors about delegating? When you do have help, how can you let some of those things go?
Well, my advice to new directors about delegating is to delegate. It's essential. It is totally essential. And I'll say, for my position at my library, I am considered a medium-sized library. And so we have about 40 employees on my staff, and I have 7 managers that directly report to me. So that means I'm involved in a little bit of everything. I don't have an assistant director. And so it's kind of like a blessing and a curse because on one hand, I love to be involved. I love to know what's going on. But on the other hand, there's no possible way that I can be involved in everything. And I find myself running out of hours at the end of the week and just trying to, fit it all in. And I have learned, I have to sometimes take a moment to just make a plan to delegate some things, look at my priority list and, take some things that are, not as critical for, the director to tackle. And sometimes I just have to just take some things off of my plate and off of the library's plate, to be honest, because we can't do everything, although we may want to. And I have definitely experienced burnout as a result of just taking on too much because I'm one of those people that I have a problem saying no. I'll just say yes and yes and yes and do all the things until I just run out of steam. And so, new directors, it is essential that you delegate. That will be your life's lifeline. It is something that you really have to be diligent about learning, and it's a work in progress for me. And so, over time, it has gotten better. I've been in my position for about a year and a half. From the very beginning, I was very, very busy all the time doing all of the things, but I have kind of learned to take some things off of my plate and to, trust the staff in doing some of those things.
Thank you. And that is a perfect segue into our next discussion point, knowing that you can't always do all of the things. And yes, you let them go, you take them off the library's plate or take them off your plate using whatever resources you have as you're wearing all those multiple hats. But know that we won't forever be sitting in the position that we currently are now. And so that brings me to my next question, Matt. What advice would you give to new directors about succession planning?
So it is kind of a weird thing to think I'm in a brand new position. How am I going to prepare for my successor? Um, but it's also a great way to learn how to get involved in your position so that 5, 10, 15 years go by, you are ready to hand it off to somebody. Um, and it starts with gathering information on all of the library's accounts. What vendors do you use? What are the social media passwords? what procedures do you have for different, if you're in a city, what do different city departments require you to do? What county procedures are there? If you're a district library, you are your own HR. So what are your policies and procedures? What can you revise to fit how you are going to lead your library? And what makes sense, what doesn't? Do a clean out, spring cleaning, I guess, is the best way to put it. And put all of those into an organizational system that works for you. And that would be easy for the next person to be able to come in and be able to just kind of pick up where you left off. I kind of compare it to when we do story times here, we've got one person who does story time. If they call out sick one day, they've got a binder of stories available with matching activities, what songs you're going to sing, and what like puppets or other toys you're going to use, so that if somebody has to cover, you can just pick that up and run with it. So it's really a matter of finding out what your daily responsibilities will be, what makes the library run, who can step into your place if you're not there, and really putting that all together so nobody has to trip over somebody else during the transition. I was fortunate that I started on the last day of my predecessor, so there really wasn't a transition where nobody was available. But if there's a case where you've got, if you leave and then there's maybe 2 weeks or so where there's no director, you want to be able to know that that transition will be as smooth as possible, and that your successor will be able to pick it up and not have to hunt down passwords, discover unused social media accounts, and all of that stuff. So make a checklist, put it in a binder, and then grow that binder as you add resources over the next however many years you're there.
Thank you so much. So now that we're thinking about the future, knowing that not just setting the next person who will be in your position up for success, as the director, you do more than just keep the lights on. You've set the tone for what it looks like to carry out the library's mission. And so that brings me to my next question. Justin, Justin, what are some strategies you've used to be bold with change?
That's a good question. So when I first started as the director, I told myself I wouldn't touch anything crazy for a year because most of my staff had been here for a long time, and my previous director, or the director in the position before me, had been here for like over 40 years. So it can be weird to step into something where so much has been established for such an extremely long period of time. But that being said, one of the first things that I did is trying to get staff buy-in on a change, because you can't just make change for the sake of change. You kind of have to sell it, and we have to, change is essential to progress, and that's what I've been trying to do here. So when I first started, we had been making our library cards in-house by ourselves. We'd print labels and we'd put them in the little card pouches and we'd run them through the laminator. And that took time, right? So staff would do it like once a week, and then they would stick all the new cards in a drawer, and then we would expect people to come back 2 weeks later when they brought their first items back and get their library card. The fact is that wasn't happening. People weren't picking up their library cards. We had like years and years and years of uncollected library cards sitting in a drawer. And so when you think about that, that's a ton of resources. That's an ungodly amount of staff time sunk into creating those cards. So one of the first things I did was you start using pre-made library cards. I hit up my friend Matt and asked him who they use for their pre-made library cards. Got the info from him, and we've ran with it. It's been a huge success. The patrons like it. The cards are much nicer. Staff like it because it's faster. It doesn't take a lot of thought or time on their parts. And now that I've been here a little bit longer, I've started making more drastic changes. As I've gotten more comfortable in my position and staff have gotten, used to me being the director. We've weeded out all of our CD audiobooks. They weren't being circulated. We hadn't bought any new ones in years because everybody was using, digital platforms. So we got rid of those, freed up a bunch of space. The library looks a lot different now with all of those gone, but it's a good change. And we've only had, maybe 5 people come in since then and ask, where's the CD audiobooks? And it was very easy to get them, signed up into using, newer resources. So don't be afraid to make hard, seemingly hard choices like that. It might turn out for the better. Maybe you don't have to wait a year like I did to make big changes like that. Do it sooner if you feel the need to.
Thank you. So as we look at making all of these exciting changes, knowing that again, it takes some doing, and that caused me to want to come back to you, Tori, because I know you talked about wearing multiple hats and doing all of the things. And that's a difficult position to be in, but it's a position that many directors find themselves in. However, hopefully you're not completely alone. And so I want you to tell us about your support network. Who's part of your network and how did you build it?
And the first thing I have to say is that our support network is really what's going to help us to be successful. And if I did not have the network of people that I have, I would not still be here today. One of the biggest things for me I do have the 2 staff members, and so relying on them to be able to help, that's a great start because, like Kenya said, there are things that I can delegate out. There's not a lot that they can do, but being able to delegate some of those tasks and have the help of other people is absolutely essential. Um, Another great resource for me has been TSLAC because when I started that state report my first year, I was probably in tears. And even last year, this being my 4th year, last year I got the report back and I had to make changes. But it was so nice to know, oh, I made this mistake, and here's some notes that tell me, hey, look at this again. These are some things that you need to change. And then having that support of knowing, hey, I can call Felicia, I can reach out if I need this. Someone is always going to be there to have my back to help me with those things. Another great thing for me has been a mentor. We are 10 minutes from Van Alstyne. I can call the director there. I can stop in. We have lunch sometimes. Just having somebody that I can bounce ideas off of that's going through the same things. We're both having those growing pains. We're about the same size library with the same population. You need that support. Also, our patrons, because what would our libraries be if we did not have people coming to our programs and supporting the library in any way? You could do all kinds of great things, but you've got to have people coming in the door. And then our library board, of course, because when we need to make changes to our policies, and we've had to do that, then you need their support. And our friends of the library have been very supportive as well in providing extra resources. You guys would laugh, my budget is $2,280 for the year for the public library. And so when I need things, I have to get very creative in how I get them in order to fund what we need. And then lastly, my friends and my family, because I need extra support, and having them come in on a random day and be like, hey, how's it going? Or having their support at home when you've had a really tough day. All of those entities combined, they really help us to make sure that we have the support network to be successful.
Thank you. Even though your staff is not large, it does sound as though you have lots of support between your community, your friends and family, friends of the library, all of these various entities, and that you've drawn on them. So, Kenya, thinking back to Tori's statement about stretched funds and how difficult that is, and all of the various hats that people are wearing, and trying to pull support from these various corners, just again, this all I'm sure sounds very familiar to new library directors. What has been your biggest challenge, Kenya, in this position, and how did you solve it?
Well, in my position, I've been with my library for quite some time. And so I've been here for 22 years. So I've worked my way up through the ranks, starting as a department manager. I've been assistant director, I've been branch manager, and then finally director. And so I am very aware of kind of what's going on, the culture, some of the issues. And so I have been able to just kind of jump in and take care of some things, not having to wait the 6 months or, the grace period of a new leader. However, one of the things that was my biggest challenge was infusing positivity into our workplace culture. We've had, since I've been here, 3 full directors, three interim directors, and then myself. And so, we've kind of had a change of philosophies. We've had some things that work really, really well, renovations, different projects being funded, enhancements to the library, really, really great things. However, the staff, that was my biggest challenge. And we had staff not getting along, lots of internal policies where, people were just kind of doing their own things. Some leaders not holding themselves to the same standards as staff. Staff not feeling empowered to, try things. And so, I've spent about a year initially in the position just trying to smooth things over. And so lots of meetings, lots of, getting to know staff. I do take a lot of time by, visiting with staff, getting out of my office. I prefer not to be in my office as much because I want to build those bonds with staff and to, kind of, I know that the leader sets the tone. And so, I move around a lot. I engage with the staff a lot. I encourage them to engage with each other. I engage open dialogue. If there's something that, people want to try, hey, hit me with your idea. I'm the one that can say yes or no. And I try not to say no as often. But I do see that things have turned around drastically. I see people coming to work smiling. I see a lot of cross-functional teams. I see, staff trying to do things that, are pretty massive ideas as far as like programs, services. People are contributing across the ranks. And, they're really just getting along. We are, a work family. We see each other more than we see most of our families. And so, it's beneficial to have a very positive, healthy work environment. And that's something that was a big challenge. It has taken a lot of time. Sometimes I just want to pull my hair out, but at the end of the day, it really is worth it. The numbers, they say that things are working. Staff are trying new things. We've had internal promotions, people moving on to better opportunities because, we're a smaller size library. And so, there's only so many openings. And, things have really, really looked up. And so, I was just asked yesterday, hey, the staff want to do a potluck for, in a couple of weeks for, Thanksgiving. And I'm like, hey, if they're partying, if they're eating, that means that they're happy. So let's do it. And so it has really, really been, I guess, something that I hold very near and dear to my heart because, I've been there through the struggle. I've been in the trenches with the staff. And so, it's very nice to see people smiling at, 8 o'clock in the morning and engaging in all of the good things that a healthy team environment would bring.
Thank you, Kenya, for taking on that challenge and leading that culture change in your library. That's so important. Okay, Matt, up until this point, we've largely been talking to people who are currently sitting in the director's position. However, we might have some people who are watching this in hopes of becoming a director. For those people, what tips do you have for someone who's preparing to interview for a director position?
I think the first thing is to talk to a director. It doesn't have to necessarily be your director. If you know of anybody, talk to those who might be in a higher position than you elsewhere, or if there's somebody at your current library, if you're looking to go to another one, that you feel comfortable talking to, try to get feedback on any skills that might be beneficial to have. Um, Ask questions about yourself and say, well, what have you noticed that I do well? What have you noticed that I could improve on? So that you can go into your interview kind of already with that outside perspective. Put together a list of all of the accomplishments, big, small, made up in your head that you have. um, Make that list and be prepared to talk about your achievements, projects you've worked on, um, things that you would like to see done in your library, in the library you are looking to lead, or in libraries in general, and have those prepared. Have your vision clearly laid out and be confident in your ability to talk about those things. Um, One of the things you can't really afford to to not have, especially if you take on this role, is a good amount of confidence. Um, I think that will go a long way, and to be able to um, like Justin said earlier, to make change, you have to be able to sell it and get buy-in. So that's also a very good skill to have, to be able to sell your ideas. You need to sell the importance of the library, especially if you're going for funding, if you're going for construction changes, if you want to expand. Um, so get those lists of achievements and practice selling them to everybody. um, have your justifications ready, talk about everything. And then also make sure that you're up to date on what's going on in the library world. We, working in the library, we know more about what is happening than your governing body will. So there's a chance that you will teach them something new in the interview. Whoever's going to be interviewing you, they might not ask you the question, but if you can sneak in some information on the current events or the current trends that are exciting and you want to bring to them, you can teach them something in that interview as well. Um, so, I mean, that those are just be up to date and have everything that you have done ready to promote, and don't be afraid to talk about yourself.
Thank you. Speaking of talking about ourselves, I want to end this on a high note. So, as we bring this to a close, I invite each of you to do a 30-second lightning talk about your greatest success in this position to date. Justin, we'll start with you.
So when I stepped into this position, one of the challenges my library was facing at the time is that we didn't have any public restrooms. We're in a beautiful historic building, you know, it was built in 1912, but with that comes beautiful historic building headaches. And one of those, you know, is aging infrastructure, and our sewer lines are under our basement, and they were cast iron and they had collapsed. So we didn't have working public toilets for several months. So that was like the first thing on my agenda when I took over was get that sorted because we can't continue to send moms and toddlers next door to the grocery store to go to the bathroom in the middle of story time. You know, we've got to get our restrooms fixed. Um, and it's challenging because, you know, it's a fairly big project, but then also dealing with contractors, if you've ever dealt with a contractor, um, they're a nightmare. And you have to learn to talk their language, and you can't be afraid to hound them every single day because they won't show up. They won't show up to work. And so you have to stay on them to get them to be here and make your job the priority because you're getting on their nerves, you know. So I would say, you know, that has been one of my bigger successes. And now we're off and we're doing other working on an expansion project and have some other grants and things like that that we're working on. And yeah, just annoy your contractors and those that you're trying to get to do things for you. Don't be afraid to do that.
Tori, what's your greatest success?
I would say that the greatest success that I have had here has actually been in our programming. Before I started, they had story time very inconsistently, and that's one of our main programs that we have here. We do not have an employee in that position. So I have always had to find a community volunteer that would fill that position for us. And actually, the person that I had that volunteered for 2 years ended up taking a position here in the school district in the library this year. So I was able to find another volunteer to fill her spot, and we now have story time every single Friday. And it's so consistent, and I'm seeing the kids they were one when I started, they're four, and they're about to go to school. Just seeing us build that program, and then we're actually going to start. We have a Spanish story time that has not been very successful yet, but we're working on that, and we are looking at adding another story time after school. So just the little changes. We are a small library, and I don't have additional meeting room space in this library, so we're very limited on what and how we can use it. But we've been creative, and it's working for us.
Congratulations on successfully building programs that brings value to your community. Kenya, tell us about your greatest success.
Okay. Tori mentioned programming, and my success has been in programming as well. One of the things that I did when I maybe about 4 or 5 months into me taking the director position, I did some restructuring, and I decided to centralize my collection development department. So before we had a lot of the public facing staff that were helping with selection. And so my reasoning was that we can have more time for the public facing staff to do more outreach and do more programming. Well, I got my performance indicators at the end of the year, and our programming has increased by 35% in attendance. And so we've had almost 8,700 additional attendees to our programs this year. So I am very excited about that. I've never seen numbers increase in that manner.
Congratulations, as well you should be. Matt, bring us home. Tell us about your greatest success.
So I want to preface this with a new director, there will probably be some turnover with the change. Um, it's kind of expected, but I would say that my greatest success is kind of a twofer, but I am very proud of the team that I was able to build. Um, we did, we had some folks leave and retire, and I was able to restructure so that our organization was a little bit more efficient in the way in the chain of command, so that we've got an operational side and we've got a programming side, and they know specifically what their specialty is, where their skills are, and how they're going to help the library. Um, and it helps having that streamlined so that I'm not the one who has to run all of the operations, the collection, and then also manage all of the story time programmers and the outreach. So that really helps. And because of that, putting people in different positions, modifying their positions a little bit, we have also been able to increase the way that we interact with our programming, and have folks who are specialized in story time with kids. We didn't have an adult services person before, and now we do, and we've been able to reach more um, young adults and middle-aged adults and new parents rather than just seniors. So we have seen a lot more engagement there, just with switching up a little bit of everyone's job descriptions and who they report to, and really focusing on skill sets rather than um, fitting somebody in a job that they might not actually be passionate about. So I'm that was a worry of mine, is how to fill these positions and make them thrive, and they have been great choices, and I'm really proud of where the team has come.
Congratulations to you as well. Restructuring your operations and programming in order to best use the team that you have in place is also a huge success. And as you said, clearly has enhanced your services so that you're meeting the needs of your entire community from cradle to retirement. So, congratulations to you all again. Panelists, thank you for allowing us this time together and for this contribution to the professional development of your peers. Thank you all who are watching. Please be sure to note our contact information and reach out to us if there's anything we can do to support you.